Hello everyone, Be Natural here, and welcome back to another WuWa video. A lot of people are starting to reach the 40 to 44 range, which means that you're about to get a free brand new 5-star standard weapon selection box at level 45. So today, I want to talk about each weapon, go over some options, and give my recommendations to help you make a choice that you won't regret. All of the standard 5-star weapons grant 12.8 to 25.6% energy regen, and buff damage in varying ways. The energy regen is very helpful in most builds, freeing up what's usually a 5th sub-slot option to make way for more damage. In addition, the sword and gun are crit scaling, whereas the Gauntlet, Rectifier, and Broadblade are all attack scaling. To start, we have the Gauntlets Abyss Surges. The effect supports a playstyle that cycles between using skills and basic attacks, and buffs the opposite effect upon using either. It's a decent weapon for someone like Lingyang who deals a decent amount of both damage types, and can maintain 100% uptime on the buff. However, for the same reason, the weapon isn't great for characters that don't benefit heavily from the two damage types, with Yuanmu even outright preferring a 3-star option for the defense scaling. Even for Lingyang enjoyers, I suspect there will likely be a better general use weapon with a less conditional buff in the future, so I can't really recommend using your selection box in Abyss Surges unless you really want the immediate boost to Lingyang's damage. Next, we have the basic attack boosting Rectifier, Cosmic Ripples. The effect grants you a stack every 0.5 seconds on basic attack hit, which increases your basic attack damage, stacking up to 5 times. It lasts for 8 seconds and effectively has a 100% buff uptime. As it may suggest, this is a great weapon for basic attack damage focused characters like Encore, and up until the most recent patch I would have considered it to be an excellent pick from the box. However, with the release of Yinlin's Stringmaster weapon, it's hard to recommend using your selection on Cosmic Ripples since Stringmaster is superior in basically every way. Even for characters that can't fully make use of its effect, it's still too well statted. Additionally, non-basic attack focused characters don't get any benefit from the effect, making it a weak general use weapon for characters like Yinlin. To top it off, the Battle Pass's Rectifier Augment is also a crit rate weapon with an easy to use passive that should perform similarly to Cosmic Ripples once you get it to rank 5, so that's another option you could go with for Encore. I'd recommend only taking Cosmic Ripples if you're hardcore maining Encore, don't plan to get Augment, and are unable to pull for Stringmaster. Static Mist is a pistol option for 5 stars and one that I believe is seriously underrated. It has a unique effect that buffs the attack of the next swapped in character, making this a true supportive weapon. In addition, it's a crit scaling weapon which helps reach the coveted 1.2 crit rate to damage ratio easily. This is a terrific weapon for pistol sub DPSers like Mortifi, and I think it's a weapon that could see use well into the future thanks to its ability to further buff the main DPSer. Unfortunately, there really aren't that many great 4-star alternatives for pistol DPSers. Pistol number 26 is probably the best general use alternative and is also easy to rank up, but does take 10 seconds to fully ramp up. For supportive / sub DPS characters, the only other option is Cadenza for faster concerto gauge generation, which is something worth considering if it's the difference between getting your outro and not. Personally, I say that if you're using or plan to use Mortifi in the future, Static Mist is one of the best options to consider. Next up is Lustrous Razor, the Liberation Damage focused Broadblade. It's an attack scaling weapon that grants up to 3 stacks per skill use, which increase your liberation damage per stack. It's perfect on a character like Calcaro who has multiple uses of his skill and whose damage profile is primarily liberation based. Similarly to Rectifiers, the Battle Pass's 4-star Autumn Trace is a fantastic weapon thanks to the crit rate scaling and generally applicable passive, and the performance at rank 5 is very close to Lustrous Razor, so it can be an option if you want to pick a different weapon with your selection box. It's a solid weapon, especially with the current roster of Broadblade users. However, since the effect focuses only on liberation damage, doesn't have any crit scaling, and there are other options, it's lower on my priority list than some of the others. Still, if you're really enjoying Calcaro and don't plan to get Autumn Trace, I think Lustrous Razor is a fine weapon to pick. Also, if you're planning to pull for Jinxie, Lustrous Razor does okay with her, but her signature weapon, Ages of Harvest, is significantly stronger. Finally, we have what might be the best general use weapon, the Emerald of Genesis. Just like Static Mist, the sword is crit scaling, which is super helpful for statting your character, but unlike the pistol, the passive effect buffs the user. It grants attack percent on skill use, and the crit scaling and non-conditional buff means it'll be usable on almost every character, and it's likely to be a solid weapon way into the future. There's not much else to say about the sword. It performs very well and is exactly what you'd want from a standard 5-star weapon. One that's usable on almost every character and also has crit main stat. For those planning to get Changli, don't worry, as the Emerald of Genesis should perform very well even when compared to her signature weapon, Blazing Brilliance. Hey guys, I was taking a look at Blazing Brilliance again while editing, and it seems like they've buffed the crit rate from 8 to 12% at rank 1, and also made the weapon crit damage scaling. It doesn't change what I said about Emerald of Genesis being a solid weapon on Changli, but her signature weapon is now much stronger and definitely worth considering even at rank 1, so keep that in mind if you plan to go all out on her. So, to sum it up, my recommendation for weapon picks are either Static Mist or Emerald of Genesis, since they're both crit rate scaling and have effects that'll work well with any unit that fits into their archetype. I suspect they'll see use even in the future alongside other 5-star limited weapons, and I'll personally be taking the sword for use with Changli. Lustrous Razor and Cosmic Rippples are decent weapons as well, and you can take them if you really like your Calcaro or Encore, but it's worth noting that they only buff a specific damage type. In addition, both have good 4-star Battle Pass weapon options that you can rank up over time, which will give performance very similar to the 5-star option. Still, if you don't plan to get the Battle Pass, I think it's a decent option to go for. And finally, I don't recommend taking Abyss Surges since it doesn't mesh particularly well with the current roster of Gauntlet users, and the requirement to get full value on the effect is a little too strict. Of course, the weapon you pick should depend on what characters you have and enjoy playing, so take what I say into consideration, but always pick whatever makes you happiest. If you found the video helpful, consider subscribing so you can see more of my content, and let me know down below which weapon you plan to choose from the box. I hope you guys are having fun, and as always, good luck with your pulls.